Thank you for joining us for the exciting conclusion of the Salida Massacre. But first, a word from our gals over at the Suspended Sentence.
This is Tracy.
This is Samantha.
This is The Suspended Sentence.
Grab your latte and join us as we enter Season 2, starting January 1st of 2024.
A year packed full of serial killers that you may or may not have ever heard of.
Thanks for being there.
Stay safe.
On May 18th, Tanya asked Missy to help her get the rest of her things from Elm Street. Cruz and his crew went to move furniture for Tanya, taking a 12-pack of beer with them to share with Franklin and the other people that were there, who is Dennis Caldwell, Darlene Paris, and Richard Ritchie. Tanya's stuff was never moved due to Franklin and Jason LaMarche having a physical altercation over a gun. Franklin was accused of stealing from LaMarche. So the way the story goes is LaMarche was hanging out at the camp. He got stoned, he got drunk, he passed out, and Franklin cut his pants to take a small revolver out of his pocket.
I'm trying to decide why you would need to cut somebody's pants. Is he cutting them from the foot up, like all the way up the leg? Or how is he cutting them? And they're still on him?
And from the way it's described, Franklin just cut into, because this is the time of the Wranglers. And then after this, for some unknown reason, Caldwell goes to see Cruz later that evening at the camp. I'm thinking he went to buy drugs. I'm thinking it was just one of the stupidest decisions that would lead up to an unfortunate, his murder. It leads to his murder. He, was Franklin's right-hand man, not unlike Beck and Cruz, but his visit was very unwelcomed. And he received a beat down from Cruz's crew. So he's got this old Toyota Corolla, has no hood on it. He pulls into the camp. LaMarche and Beck go up and they're hassling him. They pull the pin out of, because at that time they had carburetor caps. So they had rotor caps, distributor caps. So in this one, it had a pin that stuck in it. And if you pulled the pin out, then the cap on the distributor couldn't make contact, so the car wouldn't start. So they walk up and they pull his pin out. And he gets out of the car, and, I imagine the exchange was like, what's going on? Why'd you do that? Da-da-da. And
Did it sound just like that? Well, why did you do that? I'm so sad.
Maybe he did. I mean, obviously he's not too smart. His friend just got into a fist fight over a gun with his other friend, and he goes to their place. So I'm forgive me for laughing. I shouldn't, because it's a very terrible event. But they pulled this pin out. They push him to the ground, and LaMarche, Vieira, and Beck open the doors. The Corolla had 2 doors. They opened the doors and the hatchback, and all 3 of them took a piss inside of his car.
Oh.
And then beat the shit out of him and gave him back his pin and told him to get the fuck out of there. So not only did you get your ass beat, they disabled your car and then they pissed in it and gave it back to you. At 6 p.m., Gerald calls Missy to the camp and had her draw a floor plan of the duplex. He then told her, call your sister and tell her not to go home.
Interesting.
At 11 p.m., Cruz calls Ronald Willie And this is the example I was going to give you about him having control even from a far distance. He calls Willie and he tells him to get to the camp right then. And Willie asked him, can we move another night? He explained because he wasn't feeling well. Well, the answer was obviously no, because Pat Baguette, his girlfriend, Ron's girlfriend, watched him leave only minutes later. He had a long reach. Gerald and his crew met in the trailer LaMarche stayed in and told them what needed to be done. He said, quote, do them all and leave no witnesses. Anyone not doing their job will end up like the Elm Street people.
Damn.
On the ride over, Gerald told his crew, if Fat Cat or Little Debbie is there, they're mine to do. Gerald told Missy her job was to get everyone into the living room, do a head count, and then open the back window for Beck and Vieira to come through. Hell comes knocking. At around midnight, Gerald and crew dropped Missy and Jason off at the duplex and parked the car a short distance away. Evans and LaMarche, brandishing a silver pistol, ordered everyone to the living room. Before the duplex occupants knew it, Beck and Vieira came through a back window, Cruz and Willie through the front door, and what followed was described as nothing but pure hell, as the homicide detective Deckard called the true Nightmare on Elm Street. So let's get into this will give you an idea of the events that happened inside of the duplex. This comes directly from the not only the confessions of the killers, but from the post-mortem. So Franklin, extensive blunt force trauma to the head, outline of facial features deformity, broken left arm, bone fragments deeply embedded in the brain, severed carotid artery and larynx. Overkill noted. Assailant, Jason LaMarche. Dennis Caldwell, multiple skull fractures. Victim presents with multiple stab wounds to face, chest, and hands. Severed jugular vein and larynx. Overkill noted. Assailant, David Beck. Darlene Paris. Multiple contusions and lacerations due to blunt force trauma. Stab wounds to hands. Throat severed to cervical spine. Partial decapitation present. Assailant, Ricky Vieira. Richard Ritchie. Multiple stab wounds to neck, torso, front and back. Heart and pulmonary arteries were severed, resulting in internal hemorrhaging. Neck severed, resulting in partial decapitation. Victim located outside the duplex in the street. Assailants, Gerald Cruz. Now, how could we possibly know before they are caught? How or who?
Right.
So we know because there was a survivor.
Oh.
And this is her story. Her name is Donna Alvarez. While fleeing the scene of the massacre, Cruz idly asked Missy, how many were there? Casually, she answers, 5. But then horror grips her as Cruz icily asks how many they got. Quote, shit, only 4.
Ugh.
The would-be 5th victim was a homeless woman named Donna Alvarez. On that faith-filled evening, Richie invited her to stay at the Elm Street duplex. She had spent time there, but never overnight. She accepted, feeling it would be a safe place to crash.
Okay.
Was she wrong?
Right.
Donna,
She's wrong.
yeah. Donna
wrong.
at around 8 p.m. went into one of the back bedrooms and, noticing all the women's clothing, mentioned it to Franklin, who in turn told her, take whatever you want. It's not his stuff. Not his stuff. But this is how arrogant this guy was. Hey, there's a whole bunch of women's clothes back here. Take what you want. Donna locked the door and went to sleep. Yeah. Can you imagine?
Right.
Donna locks the door and went to sleep, only to be awoken around midnight by a banging on the door. Missy was on the other side, telling her to go to the living room. Quote, my sister needs her room. End quote. Donna goes to the living room and asks Franklin where she could lay down. He tells her, anywhere you want. Richie joins her and they head towards the other bedroom. She was able to identify LaMarche as the one waving a gun around and ordering everyone to get in the living room. The minute she heard Darlene screaming, quote, oh God, I didn't do anything to you. And she repeats this twice. End quote. Donna, under the cover of the chaos, slipped through the kitchen into the garage, where she hid under a mound of dirty clothes, taking a chance when everything had gone quiet to slip under a broken garage door. Running across the street, hiding on a porch, saved Donna's life.
Wow.
Here's the fastest investigation in history. During the attack and in the immediate aftermath, Gerald's crew made a series of avoidable mistakes. The first being all the witnesses to the crime. Earl Creekmore, curious about all the noise, steps outside to see Cruz and Willie in the middle of Richie's murder. After trying to get their attention, goes inside, calls 911. He sees them kill Richie outside. He tries to get their attention. Goes in, calls 911. Second witness, Kathy Mayers, arrived at the house directly across from the duplex to see Cruz and Willie fighting Richie into the street. She calls 911 and easily identifies Cruz as Richie's killer. And the third witness, heard banging on his bedroom window, peeks out to see 4 men marching in camouflage clothing toward the railroad tracks and sees Donna Alvarez crawling across his yard on her hands and knees. When Deputy Corral arrived at the Elm Street duplex, he finds a camouflage mask and a skull cap stained with blood, a small bloody footprint matching Missy's not only in size, but in style of shoe in the gutter. And along with that, a second camouflage mask and skull cap. Less than 50 feet away, blood-stained baton, aluminum bat, and K-bar knife was found and easily tied to the murders. There was DNA all over the skull caps, all over the masks. One of the masks...
Dummies.
Yeah. I mean, it's stupid to commit a crime anyway, but you're double stupid when you take your mask off and throw it down on the ground as you're stabbing this dude and it falls in between his legs, and there it stayed for investigators to find. DNA was still in its infancy, of course, but they had hair, they had blood, they had sweat, and they had eyewitnesses. Exercising a probable cause warrant at the camp finds freshly washed camouflage clothing drying on a line. Detective Deckard and Lieutenant Larson, while searching Cruz's studio, finds bomb-making materials, satanic material, militant propaganda, and a book demonstrating how to hide contraband. I'm sorry, I'm no career criminal. I've never been in trouble with the law at any point in my life. But how fucking dumb do you need to be to have a book that tells you how to hide contraband? What is this? Is this Terrorism 101 for dummies?
Yes, it is.
And if you'd like that, Lav and I will be offering it online for the easy price of 5 payments of $29.95. The detectives showed Cruz a sketch of a 6-foot Caucasian male with brown afro-like hair who had been seen at the duplex and who Franklin's son had told police had threatened his father. Cruz, like most cowardly manipulators, tells them, quote, "I don't know about any murders, but you should talk to David Beck, Jason LaMarche, or Ricky Vieira." So not only do they do his bidding, he threw them straight up under the bus. Cruz is arrested immediately for the contraband and conspiracy to commit murder. Vieira was easy to find, hiding at his mother's house. Beck was obtained through a traffic stop, and Missy at her grandma's house. LaMarche had hitched a ride with a friend of his, an acquaintance, who was heading to Oregon. And she's like, "Hey, I'm on my way to Oregon." He's like, "Hey, do you mind if I catch a ride?" "Sure, no problem." While they're on their way, Jason will casually tell her he slit some guy's throat over on Elm Street. And during a rest stop, the police were notified and apprehended LaMarche at Pendleton, Oregon, or in Pendleton, Oregon.
Okay.
So in the aftermath, Missy Evans can't help herself but brag to anyone who listened that she organized the murders. When in the interrogation room, she accepts a plea bargain to roll over on her friends. Incidentally, Michelle had lied to her acquaintances about being there because, like we said, she was hiding in the car. And she turns to LaMarche and says, "Hey, Jay, what did you see in there?" And he looked at her pale, wide-eyed, and said the most horrible thing you could imagine. Gerald Cruz, David Beck, and Richard Vieira are found guilty of first-degree murder with premeditation and are serving their time in San Quentin on death row. Vieira keeps appealing his death sentence, claiming he was brainwashed and totally under Cruz's control.
Okay.
Jason LaMarche and Ron Willey plead guilty to second-degree murder, receiving 64 years to life. Neither have proven to be model prisoners. Both of them are, they are connected with prison gangs. They sell drugs. They prostitute out the other inmates. They fight. They assault other prisoners. They assault the corrections officers. So, they're not model prisoners at all. In some ways, yes. But I think he forgets that entered into evidence was his violent fantasies about killing women. And look who his victim was. Janice Keeson painfully recounts the police verifying her daughter, Darlene Paris, by a small butterfly tattoo. Janice and husband Mark have become advocates for parents of murdered children. They started the Janice Keeson for Victims' Rights Foundation. An image I find myself remembering was a picture of Janice Keeson receiving the news that Darlene was the female victim inside as she crumples into the arms of her husband. There's a YouTuber named Summer Sanchez. She's also on Instagram. She covered the case on her YouTube channel. And normally I don't, if I'm covering someone else's case and I'm doing it better than you, I'm not going to say your name. You're not going to ride my coattails. But I reached out to her because of the major twist in this case.
Okay. And what she said. I want to know what she said first before we find out the twist.
She never answered me.
No,
Never.
Okay.
I reached out to her on YouTube. I reached out to her on Instagram. She never answered me.
Okay.
And I told her in the messages that I had information that one would dispel a lot of her facts, but I had a lot of information that not very many people have.
Okay. You're the killer.
No, but I am connected personally to the case.
By blood.
Jason LaMarche is my second cousin. My sister went to school with Missy and Tanya, was friends with them. And then Missy and Tanya's younger sister, Jennifer, I went all through school with. We were all friends. Jiggs, the elderly man who Franklin was stealing electricity from, is my aunt's father-in-law.
Oh, okay.
My uncle, which Jiggs was his dad, hung out at the camp with Franklin and with Cruz. He was a good friend of Dennis Caldwell, and Dennis Caldwell's son was one of my junior high friends. That was their little junior high boyfriend. I know his son. My aunt went to go to work on that morning. And she went to go down Elm Street because that was her way to go to work. And when she got halfway down, they told her, it was all blocked off, told her she had to go a different way. She had to literally go all the way out of town and then go up behind to get to where she worked due to the investigation.
Okay. Weird.
So she calls my mom. And tells my mom, everybody always called my mom by her full name. So she calls my mom. She's like, Nita Ray, I don't know what's going on down there in Elm Street, but you may want to go check it out. And so my mom, she was on her way to work, so she didn't go, but my sister and I, because in 1990, I was 14 at the time the murders happened. I would be 15 that year. My sister is 6 years older than I am, so she was 20.
Okay.
And so we got in her car and we went to the gas station that was on the corner of Elm Street and Broadway, which was 1 block up from the duplex.
Right.
So when I say the image of Janice Keeson crumpling into her husband's arms, is something I'll never forget. It's not because I saw it in the newspaper. I saw it in life.
Damn.
I I heard her scream,
Wow.
and people still to this day, because I went back home to talk to some people, and to this day, a lot of them say they were a block or so away, and they remember her screaming, "No."
Wow. That's it.
Yeah.